Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting. The meeting is now called to order, and I'd like to ask for the city clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, all council members are present.
Thank you. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a brief moment of silence? I'd like to ask City Council Member Gary Kendrick to lead us in the pledge.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the October 24th, 2017 meeting and the agenda of the November 14th, 2017 meeting in accordance with state law and council authority, successor agency to the redevelopment agency policy. We have two presentations on today's agenda, and council, would you join me down below, please? Our first presentation is for John Dick Campbell, El Cajon's 2017 Veteran of the Year Award recipient. Mr. Campbell, welcome. Would you please come down and join the council? I'd like to ask Frank Carson, who is already here, our Director of Recreation, to step up to the podium and let us know about this event. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Mayor. On Saturday, we hosted our Veterans Day event right here in Centennial Plaza, and we presented Dick Campbell here the Veteran of the Year Award. It's our second time actually honoring a Veteran of the Year. It was created by our Veterans Commission, and I'm going to ask Vice Chair George Glover of the Veterans Commission to come up and read the presentation very briefly.
Good afternoon. Captain Campbell served 26 years in the United States Navy from 1956 to 1982. He served in 8 ships, including 2 destroyers, 2 cruisers, 3 service force ships, and an aircraft carrier. His specific assignments included duty as chief engineer of a destroyer, a cruiser, and an aircraft carrier. In addition, he served as repair superintendent in a naval shipyard, staff engineer for a squadron of 8 ships, and as an engineer examiner on the staff of the Commander U.S. Pacific Fleet. He also commanded USS Navasota, a fleet oiler, and was the first commanding officer of USS Yellowstone, a new construction repair ship built here at NASCO. Captain Campbell is the recipient of a Naval Achievement Medal with a Combat V, 2 Navy Commendation Medals, 6 Vietnam Service Medals, and an assortment of additional awards. Captain Campbell has also been a member of the Kiwanis Club of El Cajon Valley for over 20 years, and during that time he has served as president, 5 terms, by the way, secretary, and treasurer. He has spearheaded the club's co-sponsorship of the Kaboom Playground Program and led the establishment of a Kiwanis Kids Club at the Anza Elementary School. He has coordinated or participated in community projects such as Project Amped, where he served lunch with over 100 wounded warriors and their surfing instructors, Children's Hospital Miracle Mile of Quarters, serving breakfast to volunteers at the new Kaboom Playground outside the El Cajon City Library, and has participated in America on Main Street, just to name a few of his community projects that he's involved in. He's been a member of the East County Chamber of Commerce, the Association of Realtors, and served a 4-year term on the City of El Cajon Personnel Commission. Captain Campbell and his wife, Mary, have lived in El Cajon for 43 years. And Mrs. Campbell, I didn't get to tell you at the podium the other day, thank you for your service as well, ma'am. Everybody needs to know that when the boys go to war or they're out, you're serving as well. They've celebrated their 61st wedding anniversary earlier this year. They have 4 adult daughters, 5 grandchildren, and 10 great-grandchildren. It's my privilege and it's my honor to introduce to you the City of El Cajon Veteran of the Year for 2017, Captain John R. Campbell.
Captain, before you go, would you say a few words?
I feel like I've kind of been through the mill over the last few days, but I gave my speech on Saturday at the first presentation, and I certainly want to repeat it here. But I was pleased to be able to relay a couple of sea stories. And if any of you particularly like those, why, you see me afterward, and I'd be glad to recount those. But those were exciting years. Fighting wars is a young man's game, and I was just as glad to give it up as I was to get started in it. But thank you very much, Mayor Wells. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Captain. Okay, we'll go back to our seats now for the rest. All right, next we have a PowerPoint presentation regarding HauntFest, which again was a tremendous success, and I'd like to ask Frank Carson to tell us about this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. At the last City Council meeting, you had asked that we complete a brief presentation about our HauntFest event that was hosted on Friday, October 21st, here in downtown El Cajon. We expected about 30 to 40,000. We had roughly within that target range. If you came right at 5 o'clock at the event opening, you already saw the streets were busy. You definitely want to see that. Definitely want to thank the council members, especially that came out and were able to judge our costume contest. Also, we want to thank our partner, the Downtown El Cajon Business Partners, for funding so much of the event and making it such a success. They also funded the cash prizes at the costume contest. This year's theme was Ghostbusters, so in the video that you'll see in a minute, you'll see a lot of Ghostbuster-themed items. I also want to recognize Mohammed Twama and Saif Sharif that are here in the audience with our Newcomer Support and Development Group. If you remember our America on Main Street event where they also produced a video, Saif Sharif is actually, Saif, just so everybody sees who you are, he's a professional cinematographer from Iraq, and part of our reaching out, community outreach, is to utilize the skill sets that they have, and he's done an outstanding job. So I'm going to show the video here, and maybe you want to say something about it afterward? Okay. So several weeks even after the event, we continually got many compliments, and I should give a big kudos to our Public Works Department, our Police Department, Fire Department, just for all of us coming together, working as a team to make sure this was such a successful event, as well as our sponsors that Saif was able to put on the video. Saif, did you want to come up and say anything about the video?
Let's give a big round of applause for that video. That's great. That's really nice.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Actually, the dreams come true in the United States. I was moving in 18 months. Now I'm in the United States, heading from Dubai to here and open my business. Being here, put it on the screen. That's never I can put it in my countries. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Frank?
That concludes my presentation.
What was the story about the kids singing at the end?
I believe that's the 80s All-Star, one of their kids, and they're just having fun with it, but
Well, we stayed at night after the people trying just more singing and they are afraid from the police. They said they have to close now. And I think they just use this trick just to have more time that they close at night.
All right. Hey, Frank, thank you from the council and everybody. This is your first solo Hot Fest, right?
it was my first solo, yes, sir.
You did a great job.
Thank you,
We're
sir.
very proud of you.
Thank
And thanks for all the hard work. Gary?
You know, the Haunt Fest is a great event when we do it for the kids, because there are a lot of people in this town that don't have a whole lot of extra money. And this way, you know, it's not like having to pay to get into the Del Mar Fair. It's all right here, and it's a lot of stuff that's free. So thank you all. Thank you, Muhammad. That was all wonderful. And thanks to the staff and everybody who participated.
Excellent. All right. Agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
Don't have any agenda changes, Mr. Mayor, but I do have an announcement about our next agenda. We have successfully, we believe, completed negotiations with Live Nation for taking over the management of the East County Performing Arts Center, and I intend on having that on your next council agenda on December 12th.
Let's give Doug a big round. That's a big thing. Well done. All right, council, any agenda changes? No. That brings us to consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, would you like to pull any of the consent items? Staff, do you want to pull any consent items?
Yes, sir.
Darrell, do we have any speaker cards for the consent items?
Yes, Mayor, we have one speaker for item 1.13, and that's Ms. Bonnie Price. Ms. Price.
Ms. Price, welcome.
Yes, Mayor and Council. Unfortunately, I didn't read the backup. I didn't have time. So I just have a question on this particular resolution, the adoption of a debt management policy pursuant to Senate Bill 1029. Will this cause the city to have to do any more financial services, or is this just a policy without any relationship to purchase of financial services?
Well, I'm going to let Doug answer that question.
It's the latter. It does not cause us to do anything additional.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Darrell, are there any more cards?
No, sir, we don't have any other cards, Mayor.
All right, then I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent items. Moved and seconded, please vote.
That motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
Great. All right. This brings us to public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, or successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, council, authority, and agency members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item can be placed on a future agenda. Darrell, do we have any cards under public comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have about 10 cards for tonight's meeting under public comment, and I'd like to start with Ms. Christine Costa.
Hi, Christine, nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you guys too. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, and city staff. Just wanted to come down and remind you about the parade. I know you guys are all aware, but we put together a video just asking the public for their help one last time to bring in their non-perishable food, bring it down to the parade, and we'll collect it there. So I'll just let the video speak for itself. Hope to see you Sunday.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We have an audio problem. Christina, is it possible that there's the microphone's not up, or the? Oh, we've got a technician working on it. Okay. That's okay. We got time. Christine, it's customary when this kind of thing happens for you to sing a song. A little dance would do. Interpretive dance would be okay. There you go.
Do we think it's going to be a few minutes, Mr. Mayor? We could continue with public.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and we'll come back to you once we get it all squared away. Okay. Thanks. All right, let's hear the next speaker.
The next speaker, Mr. Mayor, is Mr. Jamie Freitas.
Mr. Freitas, welcome.
Thank you. Okay, due to the lack of common sense and the continuing disruption to my council meetings, the use of personal cell phones, texting, iPads, or computers, or making calls while conducting a public council meeting is a sign of disrespect for the audience members and staff. More importantly, you can't have two standards requiring members of the audience to silence their phones or leave the chamber if they want to make or receive a call. The use of electronic communication devices during a city council meeting leads to the public perception that a council member is not paying attention to the subject matter at hand, or that a council member is receiving information relative to the subject matter at hand that other council members and members of the public are not receiving, either one of which is a negative to good government and transparency. The Brown Act requires that all decision-making processes for the cities must be open to the public, and that the public be allowed to review these documents used in the decision-making process. If a meeting is truly open to the public, members shouldn't be allowed to conduct parts of the meeting in private. And then the definition of an emergency: sudden, unexpected, or impending situation that may cause injury, loss of life, damage to property, and or interfere with the normal activities of a person or duty, and which therefore requires immediate attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker, Mayor, is Andrea Beth Damansky. Thank you.
Hello, welcome.
Hi, hello, Mayor, Council, and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I'm here to talk about the recent laws within your city that forbid feeding homeless people, and the concern that I have about that. I am a health professional. I'm a licensed health professional. I have a business here in El Cajon, in Fletcher Hills. And as a health professional, I know that we're all concerned about hepatitis and preventing an epidemic. We may see incidents of hepatitis, but we are far from having an epidemic, and everybody wants to prevent that, including the people living on the streets. As a health professional, there are some things that contribute to the formation of epidemics that you may or may not know about. One is homelessness and the lack of shelter from weather conditions. The second is poor hygiene and the inability to keep oneself properly clean. The third, which is not well known, is lack of food. When people are undernourished, they're more likely to contract disease. I had the opportunity and the privilege as an intern to work with San Diego UCSD's homeless shelter in Pacific Beach, and I was gratiated to see how many homeless people, when they receive proper medical care, proper nutrition, proper ancillary services, are actually able to get jobs, get off the street, get apartments, and resume a life that any one of us would like to have. I would like to see the City Council not, and I would like to see the city not, take action against people and churches who feed homeless people. I happen to have the opportunity to assist the Interfaith Council of La Mesa as a lay leader representing the Jewish faith community, and what I can tell you is that there's a common value among all faith traditions in the world, and that is taking care of the poor, feeding the homeless, taking care of those who are less advantaged than we are. So that is the end of my comments today, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you.
The next speaker, Mayor, is Jose Gonzalez.
Hold on. Before we go there, I think, is the video working? Let's go ahead and get back to that, and then we'll continue. You're up again. Yeah.
Right now, there are over 400 families living on the streets in their cars. Children are in those cars, and they don't know where their next meal is coming from.
And that's why Waste Management is partnering with the Mother Goose Parade Association to help these families and to save these kids.
You can get involved by bringing a non-perishable food item down to the Mother Goose Parade.
Canned foods, packaged foods, anything that's non-perishable. For 71 years, the Mother Goose Parade has been a family tradition enjoyed by all of our community. Be a part of that tradition and help us on Sunday, November 19th. We're accepting non-perishable food items in 2 locations. We'll have a Bagster at the Promenade and the Magnolia and Main Street intersection. We're so lucky to live in a city that cares so much about our children and the community. Let's fill those Bagsters.
Let's feed these families.
Thank you.
So we hope you'll come out and bring food on Sunday.
Great. So people come down to the parade.
Yeah.
Where are they going to find you? And
So we'll be on the corner of Magnolia and Main outside of the Starbucks right there. We'll have a Bagster there and then another Bagster at the Promenade. We're currently picking up boxes throughout the city right now. We had about 50 boxes out for about the last month. So I'm running around the city this week collecting all that food. So we'll be adding that to the donation, and it'll all go back with Harold and his team after the parade.
if people wanted to look you up on the web, how would they do that?
www.wm.com.
Great. And is there a phone number they can call, or is that kind of like faxing at this point? Or
Kind of, but just in case, it's 619-596-5160.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no, we're happy to do it. So see you Sunday.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
The next speaker, Mayor, is Mr. Jose Gonzalez.
Is it Mr. Gonzalez?
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Gonzalez. Welcome.
Good evening, or afternoon. I'm a representative of Senator Joe Anderson, and on behalf of the Senator, he wanted to invite you all and everybody in the room to his final holiday legislative open house on Tuesday, December 12th. It's from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Toyota of El Cajon. And this event will reflect on the legislative accomplishments of the past year and provide an opportunity for you to submit bill proposals, ask casework questions, and even take a picture with the senator. This is essentially an employee performance review. So the senator works for you, and he wants to hear what you have to say on what he's done or what he hasn't been able to do. Food will be provided by various local businesses. Live music will be performed by local music groups, and it's completely free. And everybody's invited. If you're interested in attending, you can RSVP by visiting the Senator's website, or you can call our El Cajon office at 619-596-3136, and we hope to see all of you there.
Good job. Are you an intern?
Yes.
How do you like interning?
It's good. No, I've learned a lot, and I've met a lot of people, and a lot of nice people. Yeah.
You did a nice job. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
The next speaker, Mr. Mayor, is Mr. Harold Brown. Mr. Brown.
Mr. Harold Brown, how are you?
Mayor, council, staff, I want to take an opportunity to thank you for the presentation that was made over at Foothills Church. Graham Mitchell, our chief of police, Jeff Davis, and Frank came over to a pastor's meeting, a senior pastor's meeting that's been going on for about 20 years. And they presented the resolution or the law that has been put in place as far as not feeding homeless in the parks. And many of the pastors that were represented at the meeting, many of their churches actually do this. And it was a very, very good presentation. And the pastors on a whole, I can't speak for all of them right now today, but I know in conversations that we had, a lot of ideas were starting to be sprung forward on how we can still work our faith and our calling to feed the poor, to feed the homeless and help people in those situations, and how we might do it differently than the way it's been happening, at least temporarily, while we go through this situation. We were told that it was a temporary thing, that this is not something that's going to necessarily last forever, and I know some people are concerned about that. As a professional that works in this area for the last 27 years, I am the CEO of the East County Transitional Living Center. We just saw the video up there. We're housing, feeding, and clothing hundreds of people every single day. We provide 400,000 healthy meals a year to those people who are coming off the streets and getting back into life, and I agree wholeheartedly with our health care individual that just came up and spoke to the fact that without nutrition, people don't do the right thing. It's part of the coming back together and getting back into life, is to be fed, to be clothed, to be loved, to be cared for. And as the churches in El Cajon and in East County, we're going to do that. We're going to reach out. We're going to help the homeless. We're going to share our faith with them. But many of them who might have been doing it in the park are going to start doing it possibly inside their churches. So we're looking for alternative ways to comply with what you have put out as far as the law. Romans 13:1 tells us we're to comply with all of the laws that are put forth, and we want to do that. And I think I can probably pretty confidently speak for all the pastors that meet at that meeting every month that we absolutely support the city. We are wholeheartedly behind it, and really appreciated the city reaching out. And Graham, you did a great job in your presentation to kind of let us know exactly what was going on, why it was going on, and the reasoning behind it. And I think a lot of good stuff is going to come out of this, that a lot of people will be able to get help. I would suggest that anyone who wants to meet a homeless person and talk to a homeless person, please do that. They're people. It's horrible that we put homeless brand on them. These are just folks that are currently without a residence, but they're people. And if you're going to do that, please advise them to go down to Crisis House, go through the VSBIT app thing and find out if they can get help. They can come up to East County Transitional Living Center. We have programs for people to come into, Salvation Army, great programs for people to come into. There's a lot of help out there for people who want to get help. So thank you for your time.
I think there's a question, Harold. Gary?
Harold, would you tell us a little bit about how many women and children and men are in your program?
Currently, we have about 370, I think 78 today. We had 118 children ranging from newborn up to 17 years old, and then the rest families. We're currently full. We don't have an open room for families. One of the reasons why we're expanding the program is I have hundreds of families on waiting lists to come into the program. But we do have openings for single men, single women, and if you are a family with children, please come up and do an intake, and we'll get you in as soon as we can.
Well, Harold, I have a message from Michael for you. For those of you who don't know, that about 2 years ago, I called Harold and said, I have a couple rooms available at my house. How about a couple of your graduates would see if they'd like to move in? And they did. It worked out wonderfully. One of them is still at my house. He's like a member of the family. I'd encourage everybody to do that. It's the way that we can all personally help people and give them a second chance. And it's just been wonderful, so Michael says hello.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Hold on, Harold, more questions for you. Bob?
Harold, if a family comes to you and they have children, do you have a spot for them now? Are you going to build a new building and that's where they're going to...
Yeah, there's daily rooms, empty rooms are filled up. If I actually told you how many people... We've had over 800 people ask us for housing in the last 3 years that have children, over 800 on the list. Obviously, a lot of those people have found housing and found places to go. In the last 90 days, I've had over 90 intakes, families who have come into the facility, asked us to place them in housing. So when a room opens, we fill it right away. One of the beautiful things about our society right now, and a little bit of detriment, but you got these things. And almost everyone has one, and so we're able to get a hold of a family right away and get them into a room. So I rarely have rooms open for more than a day. However, we are planning on building 2 buildings to expand the programs down there, which will open up the ability for 40 more families to come in. Currently, I have 60 family rooms that are full, and we're looking to have 100 family rooms. And, it'd be great if this problem wasn't with us, but we all know that that's not going to be the case. People fall out of life, fall out of problems. It's not necessarily because of one thing or another. Homelessness is it's a complicated situation, many different reasons why people fall into problems. And when they do, there's a lot of help out there for them. They just have to be willing to seek it out.
Have you thought about, when you build your building, going up to 3rd or 4th floor to make more room for more families?
I don't know that. I'll have to turn that over to the city staff and the building department stuff. I'd like to build it as high as we can build it, but that's not.
We need to get as many facilities as we can as far as helping some of these people.
Yeah.
Now, what's your experience been when your people confront the homeless out in the community, and what's their attitude as far as would you like to have some help? Would you like to, change your life? And what do they say? And what are some of the problems with the homeless that are still out there that want to be out there?
Again, homelessness is a complicated situation. It usually takes 4 or 5 touches with someone before they're going to be willing to come in and receive help, especially if they've been out on the street for any period of time. It's scary out on the street. It's not easy to be out on the street. Many people look at homeless people and they say, well, all they need is a job. Well, more than likely, if you just gave them a job right away, they'd fail, and it'd just be another line of long failures because they're not mentally, physically, or even spiritually capable of holding a job at the moment. Doesn't mean they won't be with some help. But with help, almost all of them can be productive members again in society. Many people have damaged their brains, damaged their bodies with drugs and alcohol, and there's programs for them as well. There's a lot of help out there. It's just a matter of getting through the fears that people have of receiving help and getting back used to somebody telling you what to do. A lot of people don't like somebody telling them what to do.
Now, I've used some of your people to do odd things around the house, digging ditches, tearing out solarium, tearing out a jacuzzi, tearing out a kitchen, things like that. If people need somebody to come out and do some work, hard work, I even had an electrician once that had to unhook some electrical stuff that we had on the solarium. But anyway, what do they need to do in order to contact you and make use of some of these people?
Well, if you'd like to help us out and give us work therapy opportunities, you can contact us at 619-442-0457, or come down to the center and talk to me over at 1527 East Main Street. We look for work therapy opportunities for men and women to actually do a day's work, to do a job, to do something, to get them back into the habit of working. And that's a really foundational part of our program, is to put people back to work. The Bible says you don't work, you don't eat. And so, we're talking about feeding, talking about eating. We need to work to eat. And it's important. It puts that thing back inside of everybody that they need as a purpose for life. We like to call ourselves hope dealers. We used to be dope dealers, but now we're hope dealers. Many of us that were in that situation. I was homeless, 30 years ago. I understand homelessness. I deal with it all the time, and we work with people all the time. Sometimes the worst thing you can do is just hand somebody some food, especially right now, the way it is. We were talking about the possibility of having permits to be able to come down and do feedings, so that those that were doing the feedings were licensed to do it. They had food handlers cards. The city knows what's happening at that time. There's cleanup that happens with it. There's a lot of ideas being thrown back and forth of what we can do other than just say, no, we're not going to feed anybody. I don't think that's the intent of what we're talking about today. There's plenty of places out there that people can go get something to eat. It's an interesting problem. It's our problem. We have it to fix, and certainly the churches want to be a real big part of that.
And getting back to the work therapy, the people that I've had have just been wonderful people, and they're just really hard workers. I mean, I couldn't do the things they're doing, even if I was 30 years younger. I couldn't do it, but they're really hard-working people, and every time I've called Harold and asked him, can I get a couple people, and we've had a daughter move in and out of our house 2 or 3 times. They moved all the furniture and things like that. So there's all kinds of odd jobs. So if you need anything like that at your home, or you know a friend, give the El Cajon Transitional Living Center a call and use some of these people and get some of their therapy for them. Thank you, Harold.
Thank you, Doc. Anybody else?
Hey, Harold. So I own a gift card charity that we do once a year for homeless people. Do you endorse the idea of people going that route because it's cleaner, right?
Yes.
Giving out $10 gift cards or things like that?
I would fully support that idea. I think that's a great idea, Ben. That way they can go over to McDonald's or something, sit down, just like anybody else, and sit down and have a meal. One of the things that we do at Christmas time, one of the things that really was very interesting to me over the years, at Christmas parties where you do all the present giveaways and all the toy giveaways and everything, the person that was missing was Dad. Dads of these homeless children that felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not providing for my kid, but there's my kids getting toys and presents from everybody else. And what we generally do is we try to just give gift cards to the parents and let them go buy the presents for the kids. Same exact principle. Instead of, giving them a sandwich or making a sandwich somewhere, or even bringing sandwiches out to the park, go get some gift cards.
So I'll be contacting you because we just did our gift card charity. I think it was in September. My wife and I own it, and I think we had thousands of dollars in gift cards.
Great.
We still have some. We document everything that we give. It's on YouTube. So we'll reach out to him and give you whatever we have left.
Yep. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Al.
Harold, you're not done yet.
Sorry, not done yet. We're going on. You mentioned there's several places in town where you can get something to eat. You serve how many meals a day?
Well, we serve about 350 meals at lunch, at breakfast, and at dinner. We serve about 65 meals up in Del Zura and about 25 meals every month. So it's somewhere around 1,500 to 1,500 meals a day.
Meals a day. There are some other churches in town that do that. Do you know who some of them might be?
Meridian Baptist Church over on 3rd, they have I believe a once-a-month thing where on Wednesday nights they'll have a church service, and then afterwards they have a congregate feeding, and if you're there at the church service, you're part of the congregation. And that's kind of the direction that I think a lot of the churches are going to go back into. One of the things that we believe as pastors and people of faith is the thing that really heals somebody is the Word of God. And so if they get some spiritual food and some physical food, and then some fellowship in a fellowship hall with other people who aren't looking down at them or looking up at them, but looking right at them and saying, yeah, you're a person too, and we want to show you love, and we want to show you respect, and we want to have fellowship with you and find out who you are and what you're doing. So many of these folks that are out there, I just read an article called, I think it's Miracle something it was called, but people are going out and using Facebook and literally interviewing folks that are on the streets that are homeless and say, hey, could I do a little interview with you? Where are you from? You know, do you mind if I post this in your area? And they post these Facebook videos up in the area for people, and people contact them back because they've been looking for this person for 8 or 10 years or 15 years. You know, but the person's homeless, they messed their life up 15, 20 years ago, and they don't realize their family's still looking for them. You just got to know people and get to know people. They're people. And I think it's one of the best ways that we as the church collectively can actually reach out, open up our congregation and say, hey, come on in, sit down, be a part of the service, and then afterwards we're going to have a meal with the rest of the congregation. You're a part of the congregation. I don't think we'd be breaking any laws by doing that.
I think one of the things that we have to realize is what we've been doing in the past isn't working.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
So we must do something different. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned 5 or 6 touches before somebody will trust you. So it seems like we must do something different to get them to have some kind of human interaction with somebody.
Right.
And in some cases, that's going to be a faith-based organization. There's 7 here in El Cajon that provide meals on a regular basis, including Crisis House, which is not a faith-based organization for those who say, well, it's not fair to make them to go to a faith-based organization for food. So Crisis House is an example of one that does not require a faith-based environment.
Right.
There are also over 50 outlets for homeless people to get meals in El Cajon using EBT cards, which they can get at the County Health and Human Services Agency right behind us.
Yep.
In fact, staff has, what kind of places are these EBT cards accepted at?
So, Councilmember Goebel and the rest of the City Council, there is actually an authorized list, and this is actually if you were food insecure and you had EBT, you could call 211 and get the full list. But some of them would be Jack in the Box, Pizza Hut, Momo's Bagel Cafe, Carl's Jr., Cafe Bistro, Denny's, KFC, Domino's, Rally's, Wendy's. Those are just a few.
Every homeless person in El Cajon can get a meal.
That's right.
And they can go to Crisis House to say, I don't know how to apply for these EBT cards, can you help me? Yes, they can do that. So there's this misconception that we're putting a ban on feeding homeless, and that's not the case. In fact, the city of San Diego has a similar ban. Mm-hmm. You have to be permitted to serve homeless in a park. You can't just show up and serve food in a park in the city of San Diego. So we're not pioneering something here. And the fact that there are over 50 locations, including faith-based and non-faith-based, for a homeless person to get a meal every day in the city is a great solution, in addition to the city's response of funding over $340,000 of services to the homeless.
Yes.
We have a housing navigator. We have a pet shelter. If you have pets, we'll hold on to your pets for a short period of time during transition. We will pay for reunification if you want to travel to get back to a family member. Mm-hmm. We have an app that a homeless person can dial to say, I need food, I need shelter right now, and they'll get a response. The housing navigator will help match them with permanent housing with supportive services from the County of San Diego for mental health, substance abuse. I don't know of a city that has a wider response and commitment per capita than the city of El Cajon. And I appreciate your part in the Transitional Living Center. Not everybody's meant for a Transitional Living Center. You have rules for a reason. For those that don't want rules, there still is an answer.
There's still
both faith-based and non-faith-based.
Yeah. And we house, and we're getting ready to do the count, which the count will happen in late January again. And last year's count, if you looked at it, the city of El Cajon literally houses over 50% of its homeless population. And there's not another city, I think, that can make that claim. So I think the city's doing a great job. Thank you. Anybody else?
Let me make sure. Anybody else?
Thank you.
All right, I reluctantly let you go. Thanks, Harold.
Next speaker, we have Mr. Mark Lane.
Mr. Lane, welcome.
How you doing? So I had some prepared comments, but since I just sat through your carefully scripted and prepared question and answer session for public commentary, I'll address some of that stuff. For most of my 52 years, I've been feeding the homeless through stuff my mother did, our church when I was growing up. I'm the founder of Breaking Bread Project here in San Diego. Mr. Kalasha, I'd love if you listen to me instead of what you do when other people talk when you don't like them, what they're saying. Breaking Bread Project, we sit down with homeless people, we bring people out one-on-one, have a meal with them, and talk to them, get to know them. First time I did it, the woman said, "You see me?" And I said, "Of course I see you." She said, "No, you see me." And I said, "I don't know what you mean." She said, "Everybody walks by, they walk around, they cross the street, you see me." So, banning, which is what you're doing, Mr. Goebel, of feeding the homeless in the public areas, goes against everything we are as a country, people that call themselves Christians. I appreciate what the pastor is doing and what he said, but by his own admission, he's not helping everyone here in the city. There's plenty of homeless still on the streets that are not getting those services. Mr. Goebel, find it entertaining that you talk about EBT and they can use it all over the place when you're part of the party that's cutting EBT all across the country. Find it amusing in a not a great way that you talk about a beautiful app they can use when you're part of the party that's mad that they even have phones that are given to them by the government for free. I find that hypocritical. I do appreciate that you answered some of our emails to you. You stated in your prepared form response that giving them food on the street, professionals in the homeless advocacy area state that perpetuates the problem. National Coalition to Help Homeless says that's not true. They say that's a myth. Their exact words in a study that they did not too long ago. Individuals do not remain homeless because of food sharing programs. People remain homeless for reasons such as lack of affordable housing, lack of a job opportunity, mental health, physical disability. With all the existing barriers that prevent individuals from finding work, earning an adequate wage, affording a safe home, and caring for themselves, remaining homeless is rarely a choice at all, which I reject, Mr. McClellan, when you said, what do you say to the people that want to be out there? It's rarely that's the case. I deal with them every day. We have them in our home. My wife has a house cleaning business where she creates crews of homeless people that are transitioning from the streets into shelters, into rooms. It's just so upsetting to me that we would be even standing here in 2017, even having to talk about not being able to give people food. I reject that you tell me who I can give food to and share food with. I do. I reject it. The pastor quoted a verse that says, to justify why we should follow laws. That verse was also used to justify slavery. Okay? Reverend Martin Luther King told us that if a law is immoral and unjust, then we must reject it. And I reject your ordinance. I'm asking you to rescind the ban of feeding the homeless. We reject it. We're going to have our event on Sunday. There's another event on Thanksgiving morning. There's another one the following Saturday. We're already scheduling weekly events after that out here. We're taking away from resources that we use for other places, and we're going to bring them here until you guys rescind the ban. We reject it. Okay? I hope you guys reconsider. I invite you to come out on Sunday to our event. On a secondary issue, Mr. Kalasho, can I have a little more time since you gave the pastor a half hour? I just need 30 seconds.
Sure, go ahead and finish.
Thank you. This man came up here, Mr. Kalasho, and talked about being disrespectful, using your cell phone, using the iPad. We all know who that was directed towards. You immediately reached for your iPad and ignored him. That's immature, it's unprofessional, it's disrespectful, and it's dismissive. You really should check yourself on the way you deal with your constituents and the way you deal with people in general.
Next speaker, Mayor, is Mr. Shane Parmalee. Mr. Parmalee. Ms. Parmalee.
Hi, welcome.
Hi. Starting my stopwatch. Shane Parmalee. About 18 years ago, my sister-in-law was diagnosed with schizophrenia. We moved her back from Texas to my sister's house, who lived in El Cajon, where she lived for almost a year. She refused to get mental health treatment, which is often the case, and my in-laws decided to use a tough love approach, and this led to her being homeless in El Cajon. She lived in the neighborhood and slept in the bushes until she disappeared. No one heard from her for about 9 months, and then she finally called. Back then, people still had phone numbers memorized. When we finally picked her up, she had somehow made her way to downtown San Diego. She had lost over 80 pounds. Her skin was hanging off of her from starvation and malnutrition, and now I see why she was forced out of El Cajon. After several years in both hospitals and group homes, I invited her to live with us because she just needed a family. She took her meds and she had a lot of issues, but she made a lot of progress in the 3 years she lived with us. She did really well for about 6 years, and then she secretly stopped taking her medication because she thought she had gotten better, and she just wanted to be like everyone else, and it didn't work. She ended up back in the hospital in group homes. My other sister-in-laws had since moved to Arizona, and they all agreed that she should move out there and be in a group home out there where she could be closer. Within 2 years, one sister had moved to Colorado and the other one had passed away. 2 years ago, my sister-in-law walked out of her group home and has been missing ever since. She's officially missing in Arizona. So wherever she is, I hope that people are sharing food with her. And since I can't give her food, I will continue to do what the Bible taught me, and I have done my whole life, and that is I will feed the hungry. I'd like to invite everyone who still loves thy neighbor to join us this Sunday at Wells Park and to share food with whoever would like it, not based on whether or not they have an address. I find this an extremely scary overreach of the government, and I find it just so insulting that you're collecting food for the homeless and you are running it through a middleman. It would be illegal for all those people coming to the Mother Goose Parade to give that food directly to a person that they see that needs it. And I don't think you thought this all the way through. I get it. If there's too much trash, put out more trash cans. You're never going to have enough housing for the homeless. You're never going to have everybody in a perfect world where they have to come get help. That's wonderful that you guys have so many programs. If I'm mentally ill I think 25% of your population, the homeless population, are veterans. I think it's really odd. Like, you have Veteran of the Year. That's your homeless population. And you're saying nobody can prep hot food and deliver it? And I just really am begging you to reconsider this because I'll be out here breaking it. And I hope a lot of other good, you don't even have to be Christian, just good people, good Americans come out and break this ban. Thank you.
Ma'am, can I ask you a question? You seem very reasonable. I just want to ask, do you understand why we're doing this?
I think I understand the reason that you're using to justify it. I don't think that that's a valid reason. Because when I've talked with and thank you, Mr. McClellan, for calling me. I appreciate that. When it comes down to it, the issue is the spread of hepatitis A, and you're worried about the point of contact of contamination. And so my question is, how is the pastors, number one, they're not getting the 4 to 5 touches now going out into the community. You're expecting people with mental health or addiction issues or just who now have PTSD from being, or because they're veterans or being homeless, to just walk into a church. Those ministers aren't out there making those personal connections with people who then trust them to listen to them, to invite them in. You're shutting down that whole opportunity. And what you're saying, it's not a true thing. If they prep the food there and give it versus prep the food and deliver it in the park, there's no...
No, I understand your point of view. I just want to make sure you understand a couple of things. One is it's about the hepatitis. Just let me... I listen to you. The second, it's a temporary situation.
Temporary, so actually what it projected is to 1 to 2 years, if we're lucky, 2 years. That's what Google it. This is easy information to find.
It's going to be as long as the hepatitis epidemic
Right, which
continues.
usually takes 1 to 2 years.
So be about...
Look, find it.
If you can let me finish?
Go ahead.
And then the third one is, there's no lack of feeding. What we're asking the people that are doing these organized feedings in the parks to do is to bring it into a kitchen. Bring it into one of the many places that have kitchens.
So they prepped it in a kitchen, and whether they put it on a plate and hand it to a person in their church, or put it on a plate and hand it to them in the park,
to be completely
when
honest,
does it get contaminated?
Yeah, because it comes out to the park, they take boxes, they put it on the grass, the same grass that people have been defecating on.
Aren't we handing it to people?
Hepatitis is a disease that is transmitted from fecal to oral contact.
I'm a teacher.
So you're putting it in the same places where people are congregating and not using toilet services.
I didn't realize the ministers were all throwing the food on the ground before they gave it to people.
You know, if we could have a reasonable conversation, that'd be great.
I'm just listening to your facts.
What I mean by reasonable is there's no reason to be sarcastic and angry. But we're trying to prevent...
I think it's funny you're saying the ministers are putting the food on the ground before they give to the people. If that's the issue, then please stop doing that. Just hand it to them.
We have pictures of people putting boxes of food on the ground. If they're not following basic food handling stuff, and we've got an epidemic that's killed over 20 people. It is our obligation to stop that. So we can disagree on whether that's a good policy or not, but I want to keep things where they really are. Nobody's trying to stop feeding of the homeless. The feeding of the homeless continues. It continues throughout multiple locations in El Cajon. Nobody is trying to hurt the homeless. We're trying to prevent disease.
So, but people you have this big list of people who are allowed to go share food at the park?
No.
And they are also allowed to then put food on the ground. The birthday parties, the athletic events, they can all go do the exact same thing you're talking about the church doing, and you're still letting them do it. So I don't think it's hepatitis A.
I think what you're misunderstanding is that list is places that we're continuing to feed people, not in the park, but in their kitchens, where they have food handling cards, where it's a clean, safe environment.
No, you have a list of the people who are exempt from the food sharing. It's on. I can hear it. Give me a copy. It's on the ordinance that you all voted on. It says birthday parties, athletic events, baptisms. You listed all of the exemptions to this ordinance.
Okay, let me pass this to staff. I'm not understanding.
Mr. Mayor and the City Council, there are exemptions of who can share food in a park. For example, a family getting together is allowed to share food, and there's this sense of shared liability when you do that. And so, as the mayor indicated, this is a temporary ban until the outbreak is declared a non-emergency. We do not think it'll be that much longer. In the meantime, we're actually working with the church community and the faith-based community, and as well as service providers, in developing a long-term policy that will present to the City Council and socialize for public discussion.
Graham, are the public health officials telling you it's going to be several years?
That's the first I've heard that.
Okay.
So long as you have an address, you're allowed to share food at the park. That's what that says.
You know, I think you are politicizing this.
No, actually read it. I'm a little disturbed that you didn't know what it said. You voted on it last time.
Mr. Mayor,
that's disturbing. How do you not know that?
Mr. Mayor, Bill, over here.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
To me, one of the reasons why I voted on it is because families, anniversaries, everybody knows each other. Everybody's familiar with each other. That's a different situation than an outside group.
So I guess my question
Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really happy to have a long civil discourse that goes till midnight. But I would really like you not to yell and talk from the audience. It makes this disruptive. We can't get anything done. I thank you. Go ahead, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, and this was my question. So if I'm having my child's party at the park, I can share food with all of the kids there. What if one of the kids that's invited is homeless? Because there are lots of homeless kids. What if at the park, at the party, we see a homeless person, and the kids say, hey, can we give them some pizza and cake too? I have to say no, and then we're supposed to throw all the food in the trash can, and then somebody can dig through it to get the food out? That's legal? I don't see that that's preventing the spread of hepatitis A. I see that that's contributing to it. It would be much better for us to be able to share food with whoever. I mean, there's so many, like when you start logically breaking down all the scenarios that really do happen at the park, everyone's going to break this law. And it's also just targeting a group of people based on whether or not they have a permanent address. How are you judging who's homeless and who's not? Are we now walking up and going, well, you're kind of shabbily dressed and you have a big bag. Don't give that person food. But that nicely dressed person over there, by all means, offer them something.
Let me just...
That's what your law says.
I need to address what you said. We're talking about groups that their stated specific purpose is to go out and feed people in the park. We're asking these groups not to do that because public health officials have said you've got a crisis on your hand. If you want more people to die, continue that process.
Which public health official told you to stop sharing food? Just cite the source and I'll be happy. I'll go look it up.
This is a massive problem. We've got doctors from the county that are working with every city.
So is there a source or no?
You want to?
I'll look it up. I've been looking. I couldn't find a source that said you should not share, that you should have a food ban.
You know,
he's giving you the.
At this point, this is just becoming oppositional. I wanted to have a conversation where I can explain logically what's going on. I understand.
I understand your logic. I disagree with it, and I think it's full of logical fallacies.
Let's move on then. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Next speaker, Mayor, is Stephanie Harper.
Well, I had a speech all wrote, but wow, I am so disappointed in all of you guys that are sitting there. I believe that you truly need to know the citizens in your city that you're governing. And since we have the biggest population of homeless people and poverty rate in San Diego County, I would think that you guys would want to get to know the poor people. But let's see. This is all your guys' fault. That you guys make the decisions. You guys sit up there. You guys are in charge. With great power comes great responsibility. So the council seems to govern from the top of a building where all of the problems down there look small. Why don't you guys come down here where the problems are, and you'll see how really big they are. I'm going to challenge every one of you guys to spend 48 hours on your city streets that you govern with no food, no money, no help, just the clothes on your back and whatever you can carry. Then you spend 2 nights trying to figure out where to sleep, how to keep warm, and what to eat. But not one of you will do it because you know you couldn't do it. But maybe if you did take that challenge, you'd think twice about feeding our homeless people. If every one of you sitting up there is not ashamed of yourselves, you should be. Because all of us, we're pretty well ashamed of you. Where's the love, the compassion for your fellow human beings? This is why you are to blame for the city's homeless problem and poverty rate. Sorry, Mr. Mayor Wells, you don't get to blame this on the California legislature. So with that being said, the citizens of El Cajon want the ordinance repealed and gone. We're not like you. It bothers us when people are hungry, when people are hurt or helpless. We're not like you. The Lord smiles upon us for walking in His footsteps. We don't agree, and we want this injustice corrected, and we are prepared to fight until you comply. And we will fight, and we will win, and we will feed whoever is hungry, and we will do it despite what you say. We will protest on the steps of City Hall if we have to. Get ready for the battle.
Sarah.
Next speaker, Bonnie Price.
Ms. Price.
I'm back. Pardon me, I'm back. I just wanted to say a couple of things and then address the issue of homelessness. First of all, I want to say thank you to Doug Williford and the rest of you for responding to the citizens who wanted to have ECPAC reopened. And I am so pleased with the decision by Live Nation to come to an agreement with you thank you very much, Doug Williford and all the rest of you for your work. And to the citizens out here who think that it doesn't pay to make an effort to bring changes, just let all of you know that citizens helped make this happen. The City Council was going to close ECPAC, and it's going to be reopened, refurbished, and it will be used to bring good entertainment here via Live Nation. So thank you all. Secondly, I wanted to say that I really appreciated all the wonderful work you did on Haunt Fest. It was well policed. The program was varied, and I was there working for East County Democratic Club's voter registration. We didn't register many voters this year, but boy, did we give out candy. Dentists are going to be happy we were there because they'll have extra business. Now, as for the issue of homelessness, I know you've heard from the East County Chamber of Commerce group on homelessness, and you've heard a lot of suggestions. I oppose the ban on feeding people. I understand why you're doing it, because of the health issues and perhaps the liability issues. But I think you ought to take a proactive step. I think you ought to prevent homelessness. And the one way you can do that I think would work here is to put in some rent controls. In Santee, they have trailer parks with rent controls, and Randy Vopel was mayor and brought that into fruition. Therefore, as a good Republican, if he can do it, those of you who are up there and are in that party can see your way to do it as well. A lot of senior citizens live in those trailer parks, and they are hurting. And I personally know someone who became homeless because his space rent went up too fast for his Social Security increases to cover it. So I would really like you to consider establishing rent control and prevent homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Pete Beauregard.
Well, sir, welcome.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon, council members. When I came back from Vietnam, I was a Navy corpsman with the Marines, and ended up in El Toro. And I opened up, where I helped found a free clinic, which was to treat street people. This was back in '71. And we dealt a lot with hepatitis. We dealt with a lot of infectious diseases. And working in the streets, we found that it took, because we weren't getting paid for it, we found out that we were working from a kind of a higher power within ourselves. Just like the people here that are requesting a ban to have you get rid of this ban, they are working from a higher power within themselves, just like the clergy, just like these police officers, just like these firemen. And I'm making a request that the City Council search that higher power within yourselves and find it that when you're dealing with a situation with hepatitis A, and I know you've got the health department supporting a lot of your efforts, but there are things called universal precautions. When I was working in a serious lab situation with highly contagious disease, we would use these precautions. The homeless are not feeding us. We are feeding them. And there are precautions, just like the young lady said about families are visiting the same spots where these people are, that they are sharing a risk. We all share a risk when we eat out in public. But if a person wants to come and do the humanitarian a humanitarian act of love, just feeding another human being, then why not? It sounds like a good idea. And I think there was a guy, 2,000 years ago that did the same thing. So my request is, find it in your heart and think about it. Make it happen, and make it so. And thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming.
The next speaker, Mr. Mayor, is Mr. William Johnson.
Mr. Johnson, welcome.
Hi there. So I didn't really prepare anything here to say, but I just want to reiterate some of the things that were already said and say that food is a human right. It's a fundamental human right, and everybody deserves a meal. But what's also a human right is housing. Everybody deserves to have a roof over their head, and the issue with homelessness here is the fact that we aren't providing that human right. And the reason why we are feeding people on the street is because we are trying to just do a little something, a little Band-Aid on the bigger problem here, which is the fact that people are getting pushed out of their homes. We have massive income inequality. People can barely put food on their plates, let alone put toward their rent. And there needs to be a lot done about this. But something that is really infuriating to me is that this hepatitis A outbreak is a direct result of our homelessness problems, that we aren't fixing homelessness. To put everybody in a home and to actually to end homelessness costs about anywhere between 30 to 40% of the total cost that we are paying right now. I'm talking in total city services, in emergency services, and all the other homeless services that we're giving. And there's study after study showing that it's anywhere between 30 to 40%. The latest one is from UCI. And we can do something about this. We can end homelessness. But we need to start focusing on the problem and not focusing on people who are trying to just help somebody on the street. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The last speaker, Mayor, is Mr. Humbert Cabrera.
Hello, Humbert. Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening. I wasn't going to speak on this subject, but I kind of got passionate sitting there. There are prayers for everyone. The council, the people, the homelessness, the people whose hearts are in the right place, the clergy, the people working every day to help these homeless people. The people that are out in the street. Now, I've had a mother-in-law, and I've had a sister-in-law, and I've had myself be in those similar situations, and I've helped those people. But that's not enough. Everybody's heart, I'm so glad to see my fellow citizens here, seems to be in the right place. They want to feed them, they want to take care of them, and they want to treat them with dignity. I think part of treating them with dignity is not treating them as second-class citizens. And also, part of that is also the interesting fact that there's a lot of passion behind this. We cannot necessarily get people that are from outside of town to understand everything El Cajon has done. El Cajon, since 7 years ago, I started working on a food bank that's going to be open 24/7. Salvation Army has bought into it. Next year it's probably going to be built with the help of the city manager and the rest of everybody else. The city manager has also worked on bringing a lot of jobs into town. The council has worked on decreasing regulations so that we could bring people like Fox Shocks into town, which is supplying over 300 to 500 new jobs. we had a citizens task force, and I think it's something that everybody from outside, because let me tell you, I've been to San Diego, I've been to North County, I've been to their councils, and I've seen how they're handling the homeless problem. Nobody compares to East County. East County is not like San Diego. We are working as a private companies, public sector, and also 29 to over 30, almost 40 different non-for-profit organizations working in synergy together. We've been doing this for 2 years. So I invite my fellow citizens, become part of the Homeless Task Force, become part of the Salvation Army, become part of the CASA group, become part of Crisis House, become part of these things, because they are solutions. If we find somebody that's homeless and we're able to connect with them, somebody said we weren't connecting with them. I've personally connected with them over 6 times. We have their names, they're registered. El Cajon knows almost every single one of them personally and their real names. We're now putting them into a database, and we know how to service them. Now there's a group that helps the veterans, a group that helps the people that need to have unification, and I'm actually on the unification task force, which helps bring families together and gets them into different things. So I invite everybody, come and help us so that we can really solve the problem rather than just throwing food at them.
Thank you, Howard. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We don't have any other speakers, Mr. Mayor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call a 5-minute break, and we will come back and continue the meeting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue with the meeting. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of establishing lines for unpaid solid waste charges, liens, for unpaid solid waste charges. Councilmember Colosio, do you have an announcement to make?
I'm going to be disqualifying myself from 313233. List it. My wife is the CEO of the Middle Eastern Chamber of Commerce, which received an amount greater than $500.
To recertify that vote, which took place back in February and in June. And for 3.3, we have the delinquent refuse collection charges that are pending. And we have before you this item. And what we're doing, just so that everybody knows, is this is kind of up-to-the-minute information that we're providing. So if the person has paid for their past charges, we went ahead and removed them from the list. And so I received an updated list this afternoon within hours of this meeting. And so we are updating this as frequently as we can. And again, this vote now will only authorize these to go to a lien on the property. That doesn't mean it automatically goes as a charge on your property tax bill. That will happen once a year, and it's already happened for this year, so the ones that we're voting on today for November will go on to the property tax bill next year. However, it will remain as a lien, and as soon as, if someone wants to remove that lien, all they have to do is contact Waste Management, pay their past charges, and the lien will be removed. And that's my report, sir.
Thanks, Dirk. Appreciate that. The public hearing is now open. Gerald, let me first ask Council, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. Mr. Epperson, so you're saying that the February and June things that we're voting on today will go on the fiscal year July of next year, so these won't be paid until December of 2018?
Correction, I did say that the November ones that we're voting on will go next year. The ones that we are recertifying will be going on to the property tax bill that's being released now.
So the ones that we already voted on, they weren't included in this fiscal year's bill. They're not going to be, The ones that we voted on in February and in June are not, people are not going to have to pay in their December and April property tax bills.
It should show up on that one, yes.
My concern is doubling up.
Doubling up?
In other words, I understand why we're re-voting, but if we already voted once, and if that was forwarded to the county, and if they place it as of July 1st onto the property tax bill, which we all have received, and our first installment is due December 10th, or I should say late December 10th, due November 1st, and then the second one's in April, haven't they already had these charges placed on their property tax bills?
Mayor, maybe I should answer this. Yes, they have, because once we knew nothing of the disqualification at the time they were approved, and as a matter of course, they're placed on, submitted to the tax collector's office, the assessor's office, fairly soon after our public hearings were conducted in February and June. So they are on, they will be on, they should be on the tax bills for the fiscal year 2018. So that's this December and next April. This is just a procedure that the court might order if there was ever a challenge to the decision to have us conduct the hearing again without the disqualified council member present. But we can't undo this and take everything off the tax bills. They will all remain on those tax bills.
But otherwise, we're not creating a new charge to go on the future tax?
No, we're not.
Okay, we're just, for lack of better words, retroactively reapproving these charges.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? I'd like to open the public hearing and ask Darrell if we have any speaker cards.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do have one speaker card for item 3.1, and that's Lucy Kronowski.
Hello, Ms. Kronowski, welcome.
Hello.
You might have pulled that microphone down, yeah, thanks.
I have a quick question on this. I think this trash law should have been canceled from way back when you guys imposed it on the citizens of El Cajon. Where does that money goes? Where does that money go when you guys collect it? Through the taxes, through the property taxes?
I'm sorry, the money for waste management?
Yeah.
It goes to waste management.
So you are supporting a private company, you're stealing from citizens of El Cajon and supporting a private company to do this collection. So that should be, if the person is not using the trash service, it should be a donation that we should be able to deduct from our taxes. Because if the city of El Cajon is getting any money from that collection, it should be a tax.
Okay.
But because a private company is getting the money and you don't use the services, it's a donation.
All right. I'll wait till you're finished, and then I'll have our attorney answer those questions. Frankly, I never thought of all that before, so.
And another question I have. The city of Santee, which I confirmed today with Waste Management and with the city of Santee, they give their citizens an option to opt out. All they have to do is fill out a form, and they opt out of getting charged the trash service if they decide not to have the trash service. My concern here is that the city of El Cajon didn't do that. At the time, I barely know any of you, but at the time when this law went into effect, there were some of the council members were working for Waste Management, which to me at that time would have been a conflict of interest. So the city, instead of looking after their own citizens, they went ahead and imposed a law or imposed this bill to people, which I see it as an illegal bill. If there is no service, they shouldn't be getting paid. And the way you guys do it is through our property taxes, which I think it is a ripoff. Why couldn't you have done the same thing that the city of San Diego, the city of Santee did?
I'm just waiting for you to finish, and I'll go on. Just have a question for you. Am I right in assuming that you are being forced to pay for waste management?
I've been robbed. That's another word.
So if you let me finish. So you're being forced to pay the waste management, and you don't use those services?
I don't use the service, sir.
Okay.
When they distributed the trash cans, I never had a trash can from them. I recycle everything. I live by myself. I travel a lot. This year I have been out of my house 4 months out of the year. So there is not even, you can even check with the water company. I went the first 6 months without any water bill because there was nobody home.
Understand. All right, let me talk to staff. Staff, do you want to tackle any of these questions?
Just as a point of clarification, we do have a similar exemption that can be provided, as you mentioned, that Santee has. You must provide landfill tickets. And
I must provide what?
In Santee, they require you to provide landfill tickets because everybody generates trash, and therefore they show where they're taking it, where they're recycling it. We have a similar program to where you can opt out and be able to receive dismissal of that. Second point of clarification that I'd like to bring up is we do not charge on the property tax bill. It doesn't get to the property tax bill unless the unless the charge is delinquent. So the bill comes in the mail from Waste Management directly, and then the property owner pays Waste Management directly for those services provided.
And, Mr. Mayor, I'll add one thing. No city council member has ever worked for Waste Management. That's untrue.
Oh, no. I wish you'd watch previous meetings where two of the members that, like I said, I don't recognize. I think Mr. McClellan was one of them. There was somebody else who worked for Waste Management, and they used to recluse themselves from these meetings because of that.
I have never worked for Waste
Okay,
Management.
I'm sorry.
I was a Buick dealer for 50 years.
Oh, that's right, yes.
And we had a mayor that used to be the county Waste Management director, and what he would do, go up to the dump and weigh the trucks and make sure that they were the proper weight, and he would ticket them if they were overweight, but he never worked for Waste Management. He worked for the county of San Diego.
Well, I wish there was a way, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I wish there was a way to see all videos, because I do remember coming to these meetings where two of the council members will recluse themselves, not the mayor himself. I don't even remember his name. But two of the council members used to recluse themselves because they work for Waste Management.
You know, those videos are archived, I believe, and you can go on the website and look at them. I can guarantee you that nobody on the city council in the past 12 years that I've been involved have been worked for Waste Management. So I think it's just a mistake in that respect. As for the option to opt out, this gentleman will get your name and number if you can give it to the city clerk, and he will call you and walk you through the process of opting out so you don't have to pay for that anymore.
Well, and then that's another point, because the few times that I have been here, and there were quite a few people at the time here that asked for an exemption, and actually there was a handicapped person, and we were told that there was no exemption, there was no option to opt out.
Well, let's just move on from here.
I would like to find those videos. I recycle everything. It just happened to be that a coworker is here, and I'm hardly ever home. I hardly do any trash, so I don't see the point of paying trash, which it was 400 and something.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? Are you planning on opting out? Are you taking the same option that they have in Santee?
Oh, I would love to move to Santee.
No. Ma'am, do you want to, when you originally came, you said you were praising Santee's program.
I had no idea that El Cajon that had that exemption, that opt-out also.
Now that you know that that's available, are you going to do that?
Well, and I would like to have all my money back for all the years that I have been charged, because I have never had a trash can. Never, ever, ever had a trash can.
Okay. Well, I do not believe that there's anything we can do as a city to refund your money, but I'm sure you have civil options as
Well, you're telling me that the city doesn't get a penny out of it, so do I have to take Waste Management to court? I think that would be a good one to find to do that.
I can't give you legal advice.
I know you cannot.
Listen,
I know you cannot,
we
because
want to be helpful, and this gentleman will be glad to help you. If you leave your name and number, I'd appreciate it. We've got to go on with the meeting, but I appreciate you coming.
Okay.
Thanks.
So who do I give my number to?
Right here. She'll take it, and Dirk will give you a call, or somebody in his office will. Okay. Darrell, any more cards?
We do not have any other speaker cards for this item, Mr. Mayor.
I'm going to make a motion then to close the public hearing. Moved and seconded, please vote.
The motion, Mayor, carries 4-0 with Mr. Colacio being disqualified. Thank you.
All right. We need to take these items one at a time. Gentlemen, is there a motion for item 3.1?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
probably for staff. On all of these accounts that are delinquent, normally, when you are delinquent in a bill that you owe, there is either some kind of interest or administrative fee. How much is added to each of these accounts in terms of administrative fee or penalty interest?
A good question. After 7 days that the bill is late, there is a 10% late fee added to it. Then, after approximately 120 days, that's about how long it takes for everything else to transpire. When we get to the point where we're going to put a lien on the property, it is assessed a 1.5% interest charge, and then a $25 processing fee. And that processing fee covers all the processing with the county and everything that's involved with putting it on the future tax bill.
And are people noticed of these fees?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Would somebody like to make a motion then on item 3.1? Is there a second? Moved and seconded, please vote.
The motion carries 4-0, Mayor, with Councilmember Colacio disqualified.
3.2? Moved and seconded, please vote.
The motion carries 4-0, Mayor, with Councilmember Colacio disqualified.
3.3?
Second.
Please vote.
The motion also carries, Mayor, 4-0, with Councilmember Colacio disqualified.
Councilmember Colacio, would you please rejoin us? All right, that brings us to item 3.4, a public hearing on delinquent sewer services, charges, and should proceed as usual. I'd like to ask staff to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Similar to the last items that we just heard, when there is a property owner who does not pay their sewer service, the similar process is carried out. And so here before you today, we have the delinquent sewer service charges. However, this is just from July through October, and we do this 3 times a year, similar to the refuse delinquent charges. And here before you today is the sewer service charges in a similar manner.
Thanks, Dirk. Council, any questions or comments? Public hearing is now open. Darrell, do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards on item 3.4.
Then I'll make a motion to close public hearing. Moved and seconded, please vote.
That motion carries 5-0, Mayor. Thank you.
Any further discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Once again, the motion carries 5-0, Mayor. Thank you.
Item 4.1 is the acceptance of street resurfacing pavement preservation 2017 project. JN3578, bid number 003-18. I'd like to ask staff to introduce this item.
Thank you. I'm going to have Dirk once again give this item. We're going to make him busy tonight.
This is the Dirk show.
Once every 2 years or so, when it comes time for acceptance of the latest street resurfacing bids, I like the Public Works Department to give an overview to the City Council of what has been accomplished in the past, what is going on right now, and what the future looks like. And the reason I want to do this, we've been doing this off and on for about 6 years now, is because it's the kind of public works effort that we sort of take it for granted. I think in many cities, the city council's never really given a lot of detail, and yet the price tag over the past decade or so is as big a price tag as we spent on things, biggest investment as we spent on things other than maybe the police station. And it's very significant. It is a huge investment of funds that are for the benefit of our citizens and our businesses. Nothing is more important really in a city than infrastructure. It isn't always exciting. It's not as nice as opening up the hotel or whatever, but it sure is important. So I'm going to turn it over to Dirk Epperson to show a few slides and talk about this. Thank you, Dirk.
Thanks, Dirk.
Thank you. Mayor and council members, it's my pleasure to bring before you this evening a bit of good news and want to show you kind of what our pavement maintenance program has done for the city. It really is some good news, and Doug, I disagree. I think it is exciting. This is like black gold here, asphalt, right? I love it. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit, kind of go through some of the engineered stuff. We'll get through it quickly, but really there's different levels that our pavement condition is in, and you see that term PCI up there. Well, it stands for Pavement Condition Index. It's a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being a perfect street. And as you see on that curve there, as the age of a street continues on, its condition starts to slide down that blue line. And it can get rapid near the end. The idea is that we want to help preserve and maintain that street early on when the cost is low. So we have a slurry seal treatment that we utilize. That slurry seal that we're using these days, it has rubber in it, so it makes it a little bit more flexible. It's kind of cool. Sometimes it has recycled tires in it. It's fun and exciting. Yes. Then we have a little bit higher cost where we can actually put new asphalt over the top of the existing road before the subgrade has failed completely. Again, we're going on nerd stuff here. And we have the overlay option. Usually adds about 1.5 to 2 inches of new asphalt over the existing, and that's about $2.60 a square foot. And lastly, it's full reconstruction. You got to grind out the old road, redo the subgrade, put it down. Takes a long time, disrupts a lot of the traffic flow, and sometimes the roads get to that point, and sometimes we have to do it. But the idea is if we get better at what we do, we have to do the reconstruction less. So here's an example, Greenfield Drive, of some streets that we've recently done. You can see there on the left, it's pretty alligatored, they call it. It looks like an alligator skin, and it's in pretty bad shape. And so there's the before and the after. We have a PCI of less than 40, taking it to 100%, because it's perfect at that point, for at least a day. So in 2004, we started at least recording our progress. So since 2004, I'm going to take you on a little journey, and hang on because these slides go fast, and it'll walk us through. You see the little year up in the upper right-hand corner. It'll go from year to year, and it's just going to kind of show you what streets we've done. And so in 2005, we did a few more. 2006, we introduced our slurry program. That's the light blue streets. 2008, 2009, we started, because we're getting on top of some of these streets faster, we're able to utilize the slurry more. 2010, similar. You can see we're starting to infill all of our streets. So since 2004, we've had a lot of our streets touched and maintained. So here's 2013, 14. Like I said, hold on to your seat because we're going fast. 16, This is last year. So we just finished, and I'm asking after this presentation to accept our project and issue a notice of completion on that. We're done for this year, but we're getting ready to already go into next year. And so I want to show you that for the overlay streets, the ones that are pretty far gone, we're going to do an overlay on the dark blue streets, and then we're proposing the light blue streets to do some slurry seal. So after we show that proposed 2018 coupled with the rest of the city, here are the streets kind of zoomed in for overlay. And we'll be able to tap into the new funding source, SB1 funds, to be able to complete a lot of this. So, you know, I know it's a hot button right now. Gas prices are going up. And what are we going to get for it? What are we going to show for that? Well, we're going to show nice, beautiful streets for that. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to sit around and dilly-dally on it. We're actually going to do something where the residents benefit. And so we're going to utilize those funds and put them to work. And after this next year, this is what we'll look like. Very, very proud of the work that the Public Works Department does, and they work hard to get this done. You have allocated $35.8 million for street maintenance since 2004. Let that soak in a little bit. That's a lot of money, and it's done a lot of good. And we have resurfaced approximately 61% of our streets. That's a majority. That's great. The optimal range is 70 to 80 PCI, an overall PCI index, and right now we are in that range of 70 to 80. So we're excited about that, and we're going to continue. This next year brings a lot of new things. There's a new treatment out there where we had the slurry range and we had the overlay range. We're looking at a new treatment that fits in between there. So just because we can't do a slurry, we have to jump from 40 cents all the way up to $2.50, right? There's a middle range now, and we're going to start exploring that so we can make the taxpayer dollars go further. And we really want to do that and help this program continue in perpetuity moving forward. So sources of funding since 2004, we've had Transnet funding, Prop 1B, Prop 42, redevelopment bonds, TDA, gas tax, Indian gaming grants, safe routes to school, and RTCIP funds. Again, that total is $35.8 million. So a total of $2.9 million is budgeted for street resurfacing in 2017-18, and the City of El Cajon streets are in good condition, and we as staff will continue to do our best with the funds allocated. Thank you very much.
Well, Dirk, you're like the Spielberg of Public Works. That was exciting. Come back. There's going to be questions. You can't give us a presentation like that and have there be no questions.
Okay.
All right, Bob.
Yes, I read in the agenda that we're having fiber optic cable on Washington and Chase. We aren't going to resurface those streets before they get the cable. Because I remember in the old days, my parents used to say, "Well, it's time to tear up the streets. They just resurface them." And I think we're probably better than what we were then. Because I complained about Greenfield time after time, and they said, "Well, just give us a chance. We got things ahead of us." So they did it, and it's beautiful now. So thank you very much. And about the overlay for the Washington and Chase, you're going to interact the signals. Are we going to resurface those before or after?
I would hope after. I don't have that data in front of me, but yeah, we're definitely going to get the fiber optic job done first.
Okay, good.
Any other questions for Dirk? Ben?
I think this was like the first presentation I've heard you give. It was really good, and you made asphalt sexy. I do have a question. When a street is cracked and then they go, I don't know. So my knowledge of this is just like out of 1 out of 1,000. So when they go to fill in those cracks, what's the lifetime of those fills? Like in my street, for instance, there's cracks and then they're just full, but it looks like the asphalt's in good condition. So is there a lifespan for those cracks to be filled before they get resurfaced? Because I think asphalt's like 20 years, I guess.
So as a Band-Aid, oftentimes we'll do a crack seal, and that's just where they fill in the kind of rubberized stuff into the crack, and that's to prevent moisture from getting down into the subgrade. That usually lasts about 7 to 10 years. A lot of times what we like to do, and if we have the money to do so, we'll go ahead and fill the cracks and then slurry over the top of it, which will even give us a longer lifespan on that. But we're looking at 7 to 10 years for the slurry and the crack sealing. That's about the range, depending on the ADT, or the average daily traffic on the road, and how much wear and tear it gets. So we're looking at 7 to 10 years on that, 20 years average on your new construction roads.
So basically, you just want me to drive over it all the time so I can wear it out so we can get new asphalt in my street. Just kidding. Thanks for everything you did. That was a good presentation.
No problem.
Steve?
I appreciate your leadership on this, because good streets, businesses like it because customers like to drive on good streets when they go to a business, so businesses love it. Residences love it because it improves our property values, so I think there's a lot for you to be proud of here in terms of keeping the city streets for those two reasons. I have a question. SB1, the funding, if that tax is repealed a year from now, are any of the projects that were listed funded by SB1 at risk?
Oh, absolutely, but we will roll with it as the professionals that we are and make adjustments where we need to and operate within the funding that we have available to us.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Nice presentation. Okay. Darrell, do you have any speaker cards on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I do have a card from Stephanie Harper.
All set? Okay.
I don't have any other speaker cards for this item, Mayor.
All right, council, any further discussion, or would somebody like to make a motion? Moved and seconded, please vote.
That item, Mayor, carries 5-0.
Item 4.2 is the analysis of suggestions from the October 10th, 2017 El Cajon Public Forum, and I would like to ask our city manager to give us an outlining of the summary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On October 10th, the City Council held its public forum here at the council chambers, and we had a number of public speakers. Out of that came 6 specific ideas. Council members contributed additional 4 ideas. In your staff report this afternoon, we have gone into greater depth to the extent that we can over the past 30 days on those issues. I'm not going to go through every one. I think the staff report is explanatory. At this point, we are simply asking for City Council direction as to which ones you wish to proceed with, or all of them to proceed with into the future. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Great. All right, does the council have any questions or comments? Darrell, do we have any speaker cards on this item?
Yes, Mayor, we do have Ms. Stephanie Harper.
Hello again. I had planned on speaking at this forum meeting and had speeches regarding rent control, better and more effective ways to help our homeless, a citizens oversight committee for our police department, and putting limits on terms for our public officials. Even came in with speaker cards already filled out, but as you know, I didn't speak at all. I sat here for about 5 to 10 minutes and got up and left. Let me tell you why. That was a waste of time. Having the public to come out to a special meeting and now this review, when a citizen like myself comes into a meeting and complains and voices a concern, isn't that when you should do this? Listen and try to help fix or put it on agenda or do something. This type of special meeting should have been like every other meeting, listening to us and putting our things that we as a constituents want on agenda. But once again, we never needed to hold special meetings or put any things on agenda until Councilmember Colasso started to do his job and put citizens' concerns on the agenda. So because Ben was doing what he was elected to do, Mr. Mayor, you threw up a roadblock and tried to stop him. Again, because he isn't doing the job that you like or how you think it should be done, you use your power to be a bully. That's all the special meeting was about, and having a problem because you having a problem with Councilmember Colasso. But that's just what it is, your problem. If you were doing your job and listening to the citizens who came in and voiced their concerns at any meeting, this meeting shouldn't have been necessary. Mr. Mayor, you need to stop wasting our time, our money on your bullying tactics. Just let this man do his job and stop blocking it. Thank you.
Any other cards, Joe?
No, sir.
All right, council, any further discussion? Would someone like to proceed with the motion?
So I think Doug said that we have to decide whether we're going to review all of them, right? Or some of them, or all of them, that's what it is? So, I mean, all of them, and then we get to see what fiscal impacts there are. I'm good with it. Motion, move to approve 4.2.
Second. Moved and seconded, please vote.
You want us to let you know which ones you want us to have you look at further. Now, you
So I
gave
believe
us
that motion was to approve them all, right?
No.
Oh, mine was. Well,
No.
because...
My second was.
Okay, so it was to approve them all to be reviewed, right? Isn't that what you wanted? Or
To actually move forward on and implement. And as far as the timing aspect that Councilmember McCollum just mentioned, we tried to, well, I think we did on all of them, put in what the expected time would be. So what we've tried to set up in each one of these is if the council wanted to move ahead on that, what would it look like? Basically, how would we implement? About how much would it cost? And how long would it take? Now, a lot of these, we will have to come back to City Council to the very specific implementation, but this direction right now, yes or no, is to move ahead on these or not.
I guess then I'm curious as to Bob's reservations, because I don't know. We'll listen to what he has to say.
I think there's 2 or 3 that I'd like to see discussed, and but the majority of them, there isn't a lot we can do with. And that's in the agenda here. I think that the blinking yellow signals is a very good idea, and they seem to work fine. I don't know what the timeline would be to add any of those, but they seem to be very effective, and I imagine that's a constraint that, as far as how much money we have, and the intersections where they'd be most useful, and that's probably what we need to discover, where they'd best be used.
So if I could make a suggestion, why don't we go through, list the ones that you would like us to vote on, and then we'll vote on them as a block.
Okay.
Well,
So Bob
Mr. Mayor,
wanted
point of order, there is a motion and a second on the floor, so I think we have to either withdraw the motion or we have to vote on the motion.
I agree with you.
Withdraw my motion.
Motion's withdrawn.
Withdraw the second.
So, Bob, the blinking yellow lights,
Yeah.
I don't know what the official title of that one is. And then there was the computer issue. I think upgrading the internet would
Yeah.
probably be a good idea, but expensive.
Yes.
So, open to discussion on that.
And we have a complete analysis of every issue that was on there and how long it would take and the cost. I think the staff did a great job as far as bringing all this forward and for us.
Yes, Mayor. Go ahead.
Maybe we should just go one by one. We start with the first one.
Yeah, I agree.
Vote one by one.
Mr. Attorney, is that acceptable? All right, let's do that then. Good idea. Gary, why don't you lead that?
First one is pedestrian safety at Lexington Avenue near Prescott Avenue. That's the first one.
Yeah, I'm in favor of looking at that a little bit more, putting that on the agenda. I mean, safety is paramount, in my opinion.
And for $2,000, it would sure be good to have I think they put a crosswalk on the street that way, and $14,000 for a blinking light, but $2,000 just for the crosswalk. Isn't that right?
Yes.
2,000 for just a crosswalk, but if you want the blinking red light or light coming up to the intersection, it would be 14.
That's about right, sir. Yes.
Yeah. That's what it's-
Again, if I can be, and again, in further answer to Councilmember Colossio's question, these are all very different, but every single one of these, we would, if you're giving us direction to move forward, every single one, we will come back to you with a final action, final implementation. So we've done some work and given you information in what we could for 30 days, but if you're telling us you're interested for us to go to implementation, the next time we come back to you, it will be ready to approve with all the details you could ever want on every specific one. If you're not interested in moving forward at all, then tell us now, and we won't spend any time on it.
All right, so let's go through each one.
Okay.
The first one was the pedestrian safety.
Right, and so the question is, are we satisfied with the warning signs for $2,000 or the flashing beacon for $14,000? And where does the money come from?
Well, you'd have a marked crosswalk for $2,000.
So what we're deciding on, sorry, Mayor and Council.
Please weigh in.
This one is just, do you want us to study it some more? If it turns out that this is warranted at this location, we will bring that back to you and say, yes, it is warranted, and because it is warranted, here's our implementation plan. If it is not warranted, then we will recommend that we do not install anything here, because sometimes it's actually more dangerous to install that crosswalk at that location. So we haven't done any analysis on whether it's warranted or not. What you're giving me direction today is to say, yes, we want the Public Works Department to do the warrant study it some more, or no, let's not.
I would recommend that we approve further staff time. The staff report said they only need 5 hours to make a decision whether this is qualified, warranted, or not. I believe that the expense of 5 hours of staff time, plus potentially a $2,000 cost if it's approved, is a good safety thing, as Gary said.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
So we did the public forum to hear from the public, so I think we should say yes to all of these and have staff come back to us with a more detailed analysis, because if we knock some of them off, the people who came and told us that they wanted this, that, or the other are going to feel like their voices weren't heard, right? So I feel like we should, they're all good stuff, right? And then you come back and tell us whether or not it's a good idea and how much it's going to cost and a more detailed analysis. I mean, if we go through it one by one and then we knock off somebody's who gave up their evening to come speak about it, and they're not outrageous, they're all reasonable. I think we should just approve all of them and have staff come back with a more detailed.
Well, I think they've detailed everything, just rough detail, and I think they've probably put their heads together and given us a pretty good estimate. So they just have to probably dig into it a little further is all they'd have to do, and decide whether it's warranted. Like in the crosswalk, they'd have to study the traffic and things like that in order to see if it's justified to put a crosswalk.
Steve? I have a different opinion. Items 2 and 3 seem like they could be combined. So I would direct staff to look at items 2 and 3 in combination rather than separately.
We are set on one course, so let's go on the course we're on. Item number 1 is pedestrian safety at Lexington. Would someone like to make
I'll make a motion to have staff further investigate the subject of a crosswalk at Lexington and Prescott.
Move and second, please vote.
On that particular item, Mayor, the motion carries 5-0.
Number 2?
I'd like to make a motion to combine items 2 and 3 and have staff report back to us on how that might be implemented.
Any other thoughts?
I'm okay with that.
Is that a second?
Second.
Move and second, please vote.
The motion also carries 5-0, Mayor.
All right.
I don't see that there was any new action for staff in items 4 and 5. It was just kind of almost a report as is. This is how we're continuing to do things. So I would move that we accept staff's report on items 4 and 5.
I agree.
Second.
Please vote.
The motion carries, Mayor, 5-0. Thank you.
Item number 6.
As far as item number 6, I believe the East County Chamber Homeless Task Force is working on this one, and I would direct staff to wait to receive the report from the task force.
Gary?
I agree.
Is that a second?
Yes.
Please vote.
The motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
All right, the rest are suggestions from the council. Number 1.
I think the heat warning signs would be, I don't know if we've had any deaths from heat in automobiles or houses and things like that, but we need to let people know where they can stay cool when we have these 104, 110 degree days. So I think that's a good idea, and I would like staff to move forward with that.
Wait a second.
Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
Number 2.
Well, this was my item, so I will report on it. This was either to have an app or a more streamlined, fewer clicks part of the city website, which citizens could report concerns. So I move to accept item number 2.
Second.
And I have a question. Would that be that they could maybe take a picture of the graffiti and then forward it on to
Yes, that's exactly what I mean.
Yes. That would probably be very helpful and probably keep our city a lot cleaner.
All right, moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Number 3.
The blinking yellow left turn signals, I think that's a good idea. I'll make a motion to approve it.
Is there a second?
To figure out where the most likely spots would be for public safety and helping to move traffic.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
And number 4.
Again, I think that's a great idea. We need to move in the 21st century, help business, help our citizens. It's a great idea, so I'll make a motion we approve.
That's a pretty expensive one.
I've got some concerns about cost, but staff can address those in a report.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm curious to see how much it's going to cost, too. I'm not completely sure it's going to be worth the cost, but it's certainly something that would be good to do.
But I'll second it.
All right, thank you.
200 hours of staff time to figure out more information on it. That's a lot of hours, taking somebody away from another job.
You want to put this off to next year?
I think so.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, I am too.
We got to be conservative and judicious.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And we can also do it over a space of several years.
So let's, I'll make the motion then to not approve this item at this time.
Second.
If I may, Mayor, Mr. Goldwyn needs to withdraw the motion, sir.
Actually, mine was the second. I think Gary made the motion.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Thank you, sir.
And
Thanks,
Bill has
Darrell.
a superseding motion.
All right. Do I need to make the motion again, or are we okay?
If you don't mind doing so, sir.
I'll make a motion not to accept this item at this time.
Second.
Move and second, please vote.
The motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 4.3 is a successor agency resolution refunding or refinancing the 2005 and 2007 tax allocation bonds of the former El Cajon Redevelopment Agency. Staff, would you tell us about this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Successor Agency Board. You're wearing a different hat right now as the successor agency. The former El Cajon Redevelopment Agency has two bonds that could be refunded, or a more popular word to say is refinanced. Between the two bonds, doing so would generate a gross savings of approximately $4.78 million by taking advantage of lower interest rates in the market right now. These savings would be shared amongst all the affected taxing agencies, the city being one of those affected taxing agencies. Staff's analysis is that the city would save an average annual amount of about $28,000. If the successor agency board would like to move forward, the state has prescribed several steps that have to take place. The first is that the successor agency has to approve a resolution that approves the issuance of the refinancing bonds. It approves a document such as a bond purchase agreement, escrow agreement, an indenture of trust agreement. It also requests that the oversight board to the successor agency ratify your actions. The resolution that's being considered is attached to the staff report. The second step, if the board were to approve this action, is that this oversight board would approve a similar resolution ratifying your decision. That would trigger the entire financing plan to go to the Department of Finance. The Department of Finance would then decide whether this is a prudent use of taxpayer money and if the savings justify the expenses that go into the refunding process. And then if that were to occur, the successor agency would come back and approve an official preliminary official statement. We're hoping that that would occur actually on January 9th if the Department of Finance approves that. I'm almost done, Mr. McClellan. Staff has relied on some consultants to help with this very complicated process. Mr. Jeff Land from Brandis Tallman is serving as the city's bond trustee, and Mr. Doug Anderson from Urban Futures represents the cities as our financial and our municipal advisor. We've also relied on outside legal counsel, bond counsel from Brian Quint. Cannot be here tonight, but he has provided insights and prepared the documents. Mr. Land, Mr. Anderson, and I can all answer questions that the successor agency board may have.
Thank you. Bob?
Is that, when the way I read this, it would save the city, or the city would have about between $20,000 and $30,000 a year more at its disposal for services like road resurfacing, yellow light cameras, police, fire, whatever. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So that's quite a bit over the next 20 years. So that would get my vote right there.
Any other questions? Steve?
It says that savings from the refunding will accrue to the city and the other affected taxing entities. Who are the other, who's getting the lion's share of the savings?
So everyone that obtains property tax in the city of El Cajon would be an affected taxing entity. So the school district, for example, would be one of them, the community colleges, the hospital district, the county of San Diego, the state of California, all those entities that collect taxes or who our taxes go to benefit would benefit as well, based on the percentage of property tax that they currently are allocated.
More questions? All right. Graham, is there a option that the city is recommending more than the other?
Staff would recommend that the board approve the resolution that's before you tonight with all the approvals that go with that resolution.
Okay.
So move.
Second.
Well, let's hold your horses, guys. Let's see if there's anybody in the public who wants to be involved.
I do have a card, Mr. Mayor. Bonnie Price?
Yeah.
Part of my question's been answered already by Mr. Mitchell, but I did this years ago. I know there are many people involved, and they're very expensive, and so you've already answered that the $28,000 to be saved annually will be the net rather than the gross, and that's good, and it will be available for use. My other question is, were these experts that you brought in for this purpose, will they be employed on a competitive bid basis?
You can answer the question.
Certainly, Chair and members of the board, the consultants that we use are specialized consultants. They get paid out of the savings, out of the contingency from the bond refinancing, so they don't get paid unless the bond deals go forward. Because of the timing of the market, with likelihood that interest rates will go up soon after the beginning of the year, we felt it prudent that you, under your procurement, you can go ahead and use a sole source aspect, which is approved in the resolution that you have before you tonight.
So we wouldn't normally bid out a situation like this, right?
No, these are professional services, so you typically wouldn't bid for those anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, council, I'll leave it to you.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
That motion carries 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Item 6.1 is my activities report as reported.
Mr. Mayor, we have item 4.4.
Did I miss something? Okay, sorry. Oh, you have to continue. I apologize. Item 5, right?
4.4.
4.4, sir.
Maybe my...
It's at the bottom of page.
Yes, thanks. I'm sorry. I went ahead of myself. Item 4.4 is a resolution amending City Council Resolution Number 074-17 regarding City Council member use of electronic devices during meetings. I'd like to ask staff to introduce this item.
City Council at your last meeting of October 24th, directed staff put this back on the agenda for decision-making purposes. There is a draft resolution in your packet this afternoon that reflects the language that Councilmember Goebel recommended. At your last meeting, Council's options are to approve as written, amend, or deny the resolution. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Darrell, any speaker cards on this?
I do, Mr. Mayor, I do have Stephanie Harper,
Doesn't appear to be here.
and I also have Ms. Bonnie Price.
Yes, I'm very concerned about this. Pardon me. Having been a public official for 20 years and finding it very useful to take notes, and now having electronic devices to record such things, I think it's rather taking a step back in time to require people to use paper if they can make notes for preservation on their electronic device. And so I would like to have you think about using your tablet or your phone, whatever you use, to keep notes of not only the issues brought forward by the public, but also the names of who's interested in it. And also, we have this wonderful thing on our devices called a search engine, and I use it very frequently. I use Google. I have a lot of questions when I do my work, and I find it very helpful to be able to just check on my own knowledge by checking with the search engine to find out if my recall is correct. And I know recall can be faulty sometimes, and I think having well-informed policy requires well-informed officials. So when you're thinking about using electronic devices, I don't think you should just think of them for one narrow purpose, that they might be distracting from paying attention. Sometimes the best attention paid is taking notes and writing down what people are really concerned about and being informed. You know, I heard what you said. Everybody has to have the same knowledge, but we can't know everything. No one has a corner on the market of knowledge. And if you can just check on a fact, that might make the difference between a yes or a no on a vote. Thank you.
Let me see. Are there any more speaker cards?
No, sir.
All right, council, any discussion on this item? Bob?
Question from the city manager. Isn't that the reason that we have the keyboards on our desk here, that we take notes on the iPads now?
Yes, sir. The existing council policy specifically points out that iPads and any softwares needed for note-taking is delivered to the city council members.
So we all have keyboards so we can take notes right on our iPads. And
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I wanted to actually amend the language. So I offer an amended recommendation.
Okay.
Paragraph 1 on the first page of the resolution. Paragraph 1, towards the end, it says, "So that the public has the full and undivided attention of the City Council during meetings, a council member must," and I amend that we strike, "either request a recess for the presiding officer or," and strike those words, so that the final version reads, "has the full and undivided attention of the City Council during meetings, a council member must vacate the council chamber meeting venue to attend to an emergency."
Okay.
So I would make a motion to approve item, what are we on, 4.4?
Yes.
With the modification as stated to the resolution. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Would Morgan like to comment on those modifications to whether he thinks they would be useful?
Yeah, it's really not necessarily a legal issue, so if the council agrees with that modification, you can certainly make that.
Well, I guess the question is, should a city council member be disrespecting the public by talking on his cell phone or while the public's business is being done? You can't really serve two masters at the same time. We're supposed to be paying attention to what's going on out there. We're supposed to be paying attention to what the public is saying. And sometimes there's millions of dollars at stake, and if you're tapping away on your cell phone or talking to somebody on your cell phone, you're not paying attention. So that's certainly consideration.
So there's a motion on the floor from Mr. Goebel. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Mayor, the motion carries 4-1 with Mr. Colacio voted no, and will note for the record the amendment by Mr. Goebel to the resolution.
All right. There are no commission reports. Item 6.1 is my activities report, which is as reported. Item 6.2 is the legislative report. There's nothing to report right now, with the governor being in Europe, and all the bills signed or rejected. We are now at activities for reports of council members. Councilmember Kendrick.
As reported.
Mayor Pro Tem Bob McClellan.
As reported.
Councilmember Colacio.
They are as I've reported them.
Councilmember Goebel.
As reported.
There are no joint or council member reports, no general information items, and no readings of ordinances. We are now at closed session. We have one item for closed session this evening. Mr. City Attorney, would you please recite the closed session item and lead us into the closed session?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. The City Council will be adjourning to closed session for item 15.1, which is a conference with legal counsel on existing litigation pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision B of Government Code Section 54956.9. The name of the case is Larry Hauser versus City of El Cajon, U.S. District Court, case number 16 CD 3091-W-MDD.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion then to adjourn the closed session.
Second.
Move and second, please vote.
The motion, Mayor, carries 5-0. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back shortly.